This video is sponsored by Gods Unchained, a new, free-to-play digital card game that uses blockchain technology to give you full ownership of your cards. That means you can buy, sell, and trade your cards outside of the game itself, which is something Magic Arena, Hearthstone, and even Legends of Runeterra just cannot do. And to help you get started, Gods Unchained is running a limited time promotion where players can earn $20 just by completing a few simple in-game quests. Now I know it sounds too good to be true and there must be a catch somewhere, right? But they just rolled out their new set, Trial of the Gods, and they want to celebrate, so they paid for what's in this cup. Cheers! Anyway, I've been playing the game myself for weeks now, and I kind of love it. I'm not telling you to quit playing Magic entirely or anything like that, but Gods Unchained does have lore, and it's being written by Kelly Diggs, who did some fantastic work on the Magic story, so that's what got me interested. There's 6 different gods, each with their own playstyle and themes. You'll find Egyptian, Amazonian, Greek, Norse mythology, all these cool things represented on various different cards, and it gives the game a really epic feel while you're battling things out. Join the fun using my link right here, and you'll even be supporting the Magic Arcanum channel. So, cool lore, cool cards, you get paid to play. I'm really excited to say that this video is sponsored by Gods Unchained, so I hope you check it out, and then start your story off by selling me some of your cards, because I need some more Arcana demons. They're sweet. Okay, now on with the show. Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Letson, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. We already covered what happens in Kaldheim, but the set gave us a ton of legendary creatures who had almost no impact on the story. The gods, especially, have some really interesting flavor behind them, so I wanted to take a closer look at the front and back of these cards. The Gods of Kaldheim can be found at a range of mana values across all 5 colors, making at least one suitable for just about any type of deck you could want to play. What sets the Kaldheim gods apart from their magical cousins on Theros and Amonkhet is the fact that they are essentially 2 cards in one. You can cast the legendary creature front side, or get a variety of permanents from their backsides. Their backsides is also where Tybalt's Trickery players pull their wins from. Anyway, who are the Gods of Kaldheim, and which one is most likely to get you banned from your Commander playgroup? Let's find out. We'll start with Ulrund, God of the Cosmos. He's connected to a lot of the other gods by parentage, or by adoption, but more on that in a moment. Ulrund is the god of wisdom, but that doesn't mean he's one to shy away from a fight. In fact, he got most of his knowledge by hunting down Kaldheim's cosmos monsters and forcing them to reveal their secrets. And he does use that information for power. Ulrund gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand, which is a flavorful way of representing strength fueled by knowledge. Flip him over and you'll find Haka, Ulrund's personal familiar and favorite raven. Notice they both have one glowing eye, which is a reference to Odin, the Norse inspiration for Ulrund. At just 2 mana, Haka is an enticing way to cheat Ulrund into play. You just need to use what we call a flicker effect, something that will exile the bird and then return it to the battlefield, like Thassa. Except your card won't come back as Haka, it will enter the battlefield on its front face, which is Ulrund, potentially upgrading your 2-mana bird into a 5-mana god, which can then start drawing you more cards and attacking for huge numbers. I mentioned earlier that Ulrund had fathered some of the other gods, and he did that with Kosema, so let's look at her next. Kosema was actually born as a dolphin and was a cosmos monster of Kaldheim, swimming between the realms before she took a human form and claimed divinity for herself. That's why the fancy version of Kosema has dolphins all over it. She stayed with Ulrund for about 20 years before the call of the sea became too much for her, and she resumed swimming in the waves among the realms. Both Ulrund and Kosema appeared in the Kaldheim story, but it was actually the Omen Keel that had the most profound impact. Kaya was able to use this magical boat to travel between realms as she was hunting Vorinclex. The ship and its owner are themed around exploring with an extra emphasis on lands. Kosema, for example, can turn your fabled passage into 2+1/+1 counters and 2 drawn cards, but I haven't seen anyone experiment with a blue landfall deck in Standard just yet. Together, Ulrund and Kosema had 3 children who are also all gods. Their eldest is Toralf, god of fury, who takes a lot of inspiration from Thor, who you might have heard of. He's got the whole thunder and lightning thing going on, but he's not very interested in war. Instead, he'd rather test himself against the wilderness of Kaldheim and accomplish feats no one else can. His father Ulrund thinks that he is wasting his talents, and that is causing a bit of friction within the family at the moment, something we could see explored on a future visit to the plane. Toralf's hammer is made out of tyrite, the magical sap harvested from the World Tree, which seems to be a popular material for forging the weapons of the gods. His younger sister is Birgi, the god of storytelling, which I guess obligates me to feature her in some sort of Magic Arcanum commander deck. She's an entertainer and she travels the realms looking for the best parties, where she tells stories about all of her great accomplishments, except she's usually taking credit for Toralf's achievements. She even hired a skald to follow her brother around and report back on his most impressive feats, which is kind of funny. The youngest member of the family is Kolvari, the god of kinship, and she tries to keep the peace between everybody else. She's generous with gifts, and she loves to talk about the beauty she finds in nature, which are 2 traits she might have picked up from her older siblings. Now, there is one more member of this family, and that's Halvar, the god of battle. Remember earlier when I said how Ulrund won his wisdom by challenging the cosmos monsters? Yeah. Well, during that time, he came across an orphaned baby just kind of hanging out in this giant eagle's nest on Axgard, home of the dwarves. Ulrund decided to adopt this child as his own, but since he was too busy to settle down, he left Halvar in the care of the Dwarven king for 20 years. So he finds a baby, claims it, and lets someone else raise it to adulthood. I don't even have a joke to make here. That is some inventive parenting. Anyway, Halvar turned out pretty good. He's well liked, he's brave, and he's pretty sensible as far as gods go. His Sword of the Realms was at the center point of the Kaldheim story. Tybalt used it to open a bunch of omen paths, for the lulz, before being stopped by Kaya and Tyvar, who returned the sword to Halvar. Tybalt was able to do this because he was impersonating Valki, god of lies. The true Valki is a trickster who loves causing trouble for the other gods, but also enjoys helping them sometimes, just so they can never be sure which version of him they're going to get. Before the Kaldheim story took place, Tybalt captured Valki and had him locked away in the realm of the zombies, so it's possible we'll see him again on a future visit to the plane. Someone we might not be seeing, though, is Asica God of the Tree. She watches over the World Tree and its supply of tyrite, which she uses in a magical elixir that she shares with her fellow gods. A sample of this was stolen by Vorinclex, and he had to severely wound Asica to get to it. The story did not make it clear if she was going to die from her injuries or suffer a worse fate thanks to the Phyrexian nature of the attack. In my video covering what happens on Kaldheim, I point out how the art of Kaya's onslaught shows her fighting Vorinclex near the Tyrite Sanctum, so maybe in an earlier draft of the story she arrived in time to save Asica, but now that things unfold differently, I'm not sure there's anyone coming to her rescue. Perhaps she can tap into the power of the prismatic bridge and use it to bring someone to her from elsewhere on the plane. It is one of the few ways to magically move around Kaldheim, but since it didn't appear in the story, we don't really know how it works. Asica was created when Ulrund tried to use runic magic to commune with the World Tree himself, but she did not come into being alone. She has a sister among the gods, and that is Targrid. Targrid is the god of fright, and she is aptly named as she is accompanied by a shadow that is absolutely terrifying. When she was just 4 years old, her own shadow tried to strangle her, but she was able to fight it off, and now it just follows her everywhere, sometimes still trying to wrap its fingers around her neck. She ignores it, and then lashes out at anybody who questions her on it, which makes her about as different from her sister Asica as can be. It's possible that Ulrund's magic and interaction with the World Tree has something to do with all of this, so that's a mystery we might get to explore the next time we visit Kaldheim. Egon, the god of death, is another interesting character. He is one of the oldest gods, but he ages backwards, so right now he looks like a teenager. This makes it hard for the other gods to take him seriously, and they're all pretty dismissive of him, even as he tries to get them to understand that all of their infighting will eventually be their own downfall. In that way, he has something in common with Kolvari, who also wants to see everyone get along, but aside from that, those two can't really stand each other. Egon spends most of his time in the realm called Istfell, which is home to the plane's spirits. From his throne there, he has declared himself to be the Lord High Ruler of all the dead of all the realms, which is probably not helping his situation with people not taking him seriously. Anyway, Jorn, god of winter. He's the only god who has something extra in his type line on this plane, and he spends decades at a time alone in the wilds of Kaldheim. As much as he enjoys his solitude, he's always willing to come back to civilization to help his fellow gods, especially his brother, Ulrund. In fact, when Ulrund started out on his quest to wrestle with all of the cosmos monsters, it was Jorn who showed him all of the pathways he would have to use to reach them. So despite generally preferring the company of animals, Jorn does have a tight bond with Ulrund, which gives us some hope for the stability of the plane, no matter what Egon might think. I would like to point out that as a snow permanent himself, Jorn will untap himself whenever he attacks. He'll also untap your snow-covered lands, and if you were lucky enough to play a second copy of him as the Rhyme Staff, he'll untap that and whatever permanent it put onto the battlefield as well. That seems like a ton of value in a 3-mana creature, but I haven't seen a deck built to take advantage of it just yet. That leaves us with Redane, god of the worthy, who has a surprisingly violent and bloody side to her for somebody carrying the Protector's shield. You see, Redane is focused on justice, but is obsessed with fairness, and she believes every injustice can and must be repaid with an equal sacrifice. This eye for an eye style of compensation is not unheard of among white-aligned characters, but it was unexpected coming from someone represented by such a defensive card. A card everyone should read more carefully too, by the way. I cannot count how many oops emojis I have collected from my opponents when they tapped out to cast a spell that targeted me or one of my creatures while I had Valkmira on the battlefield. Even her creature side will tax your opponent's bigger spells, buying you time for your aggressive strategy to steal the win. Unless, of course, you're up against Tybalt's Trickery. Oh man, am I tired of seeing that card already? Yeah. So those are the gods of Kaldheim. Many are related, or at least have some connection to Ulrund, but they each play a vital role in daily life across the plane. I know Asica is already one of the more popular Brawl commanders, but I'm curious to see how the other gods work alongside new cards from Strixhaven in a couple of months. Now personally, I really like the dual face designs for these gods. Having a strong legendary creature on the front and a different permanent with a different mana value on the reverse means these cards are almost never dead in your hands, which makes them much more fun to build decks around. Which of the gods is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments, and then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!